10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Good luck, studio.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Paul Chandler, the Shy Yeti. He's not that shy.
Oh, it's the Shy Life Podcast.
All I wanted was a pie, and then I hatched out of an egg.
Okay, bring the mic over. He's ready to record.
It's the quiet ones you've got to watch, you know.
Is it metaphorical? Is it deep? Is it deep?
Boy, he's not all that shy, is right.
Blimey, Governor, it's the Shy Life Podcast.
Excellent.
526.
Hello, campers. How are you?
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Shy Life Podcast with me, Paul the Shy Yeti. How are you doing? Oh, I'm all right. Well, what's going on this episode? Well, it's a Chatterbox episode. It's our spring special. I don't know when it'll be coming out. Around Easter, before May. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. We've got a bumper crop of guests this time, but let's run the theme music, and when we come back, I will introduce them. Run that theme music.
Darling, it's the Shy Life Podcast.
But it's a positive thing, Paul. The Shy Life.
You won't find a cast of characters like this everywhere.
Hello, Paul.
What's all that?
I'll go anywhere for potato.
Delicious.
This particular episode of the Shy Life is a little more abstract than usual.
Go Shy Yeti.
Oh, I hope he hasn't found out my secret. I think he has.
If you thought that was bad, just listen to this.
Oh, I can't wait for it to begin.
It's the Shy Life Podcast.
So, would you be cycling? Yeah, I'm strangely drawn to Younger John's ankles as well.
Has the Shy Life Podcast slowed down? I don't think so.
It's all gooey and easy and yum, 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 yum.
Hello, yes. Here we are. We're lacking one person, but we're expecting them to arrive soon, and we've got somebody who isn't usually here. So I'll introduce the people who are usually here. We have Andrew and Lisa.
Hello, folks of world.
Hello.
And we have Martin Hope.
Hello there. So the raddled old regulars.
Yes. And
How dare you, sir?
I see your raddle.
and we have someone who's very familiar to the show but hasn't been on a Chatterbox very often. It's Nick Goodman.
Hello, I'm not usually all there.
No, you're not usually. We wear you out with all the other episodes we do.
You heard it first, folks.
We keep him apart from the others because we lock him in his room. I'm allowed in, but he's not allowed out.
He's got a room. Bloody hell, I don't get a room.
It's got a corridor. It's got a corridor. It's a bit like Hannibal Lecter in that end cell.
Well, we were hoping that wouldn't come out, but anyway, it's been revealed now. But
He hasn't been allowed home.
The thing is, I feel to blame because it's he wasn't like this before, but it's because he's been digitising Sutton Park episodes. It's made him completely lose it. So
He's gone all digital.
Once Sutton Park is digitalised, I will be released into the wilds again.
No, I'm not sure. I don't think it'd be safe. It's a long. Does it damage is permanent? I'm afraid. Sorry. That's why do you think I never watch the digitisation when it's on audio? Watch it on audio. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. I've introduced everybody except for the person who isn't here yet, but that's right. That's fine. So I've got a list of things we're going to be doing. We're going to do some flashbacks to old episodes. We're going to do some facts and figures and quizzes. We've got the return of Call My Bluff, or our version of it. I want to talk about TV that's really knackered, like stuff where things. Our last guest is here. I'm just going to bring him into the call. I think you can probably better guess who it is. It's a vintage podcaster, the person who's
He's not that old.
No, well, he's done more. He's been podcasting longer than any of us, but so he deserves some sort of medal, probably.
Some sort of medal.
Medal, yes, but we can't afford medals.
Medal.
How do I bring him on? It doesn't seem easy.
For a big switch.
Well, it's not
big red button.
There's just a minute. Here we go.
The toppy button.
Here we go. Hello. Calling all toppies.
There he is.
Ta-da!
Hello.
Yeah.
They seek him
Hi,
there.
Sophie.
Seek him there.
Hello. We've just started, but we've been advertising that you'll be arriving. Well, we kept it mysterious, but yes.
Good. I'm all into the mysterious.
Yeah, our final guest. I said you're the podcaster who's been podcasting longer than any of us. So you're the king of the road. I don't know, king of the
wild frontier.
Yeah. It's Toppy Smalley. Hello.
Hey. Hello, Toppy.
Yes, we've got. I could do a roll call. I'll do a roll call. Toppy, we've got Andrew, Lisa, Martin, me, and Nick Goodman.
Oh,
superlative 6.
Got an extra list for this month.
That's right.
We're
4
like
squares,
the
5 people.
century literary circle, isn't it? Of podcasters.
Yeah.
We're not.
They used to have like the Bloomsbury set, didn't they? Which was all,
20th
that's
century.
20th century. So are we the Charlton set?
It gets to be Lord Byron then.
There.
19th century literary set.
Yeah, we're not sure if this is. We're calling it our spring special. We're not sure when it'll be coming out. April, sometime in April probably. But
well, we've actually had spring temperatures here right now. It's 10 a.m., but it's already 60 degrees. So
yeah, it's looking pretty good here as well. It's pretty sunny. I saw a bumblebee this morning.
Ooh.
Did it recognise you?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's Nick off the radio.
A long chat.
Yes, this is also quite a unique part of the year because we are closer to Toppy than we've ever been. Well, no, we're closer. We are the closest we ever get to Toppy. In that we're 4 hours apart at the moment rather than 5. So just for a brief window of 2 weeks, I think. So
the UK is nudged an hour to the west.
Yeah, we don't change our clocks until next weekend. But he's so close now, I can almost see him.
You can feel his fire.
Every year, there's a lot of legislation going on to just stop this ridiculous time change thing. And every year we're a little closer, but it never seems to happen.
No, my dad didn't bother with this at all. He left all the clocks to their fate. Just he couldn't be arsed with that.
Yeah, we've. As I was saying to the others, we've got quizzes. We're going to do a version of the random word, like the episode that Nick and I did a while back, where we have a random word and but we're all going to have different random words.
Crikey!
And if we can, you might just have to say, no, I can't think of anything to do with that, but who knows? But just make it up. We've got Call My Bluff as well coming up. We've got facts and figures. But first of all, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about TV shows that we love, but which kind of broadcast bloopers or mistakes that they haven't even bothered to. Well, I'm mainly thinking of Dark Shadows for Toppy and I to talk about, because I've been watching some Toppy, I've been watching 1970 Dark Shadows when they're in the parallel time.
Yes.
There's a lot of bizarre acting and a lot of mistakes, but because for those of you who don't know, that it's around the time when there's a character who's like a Jekyll and Hyde character. He's a scientist, and but when he turns into the bad version of himself, he really goes really very far, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Sniffing people's underwear and everything. It's they're still wearing it at the time. No, they're not. But
yeah, this was their version of Jekyll and Hyde, because that's basically what Dark Shadows did. They recycled, everything from Frankenstein to Dracula. And the only thing they didn't ever do was the Mummy or the Gill Man. But one of the things that happened in the 70s is they kept pushing the special effects, and and they kind of got sloppy because everyone was just pretty darn tired on that show, because it was just every day hustle.
They were making
hustle.
the movie, weren't they? In 1970, they made the first movie.
Yeah, and anyways, it was just a very busy time, and their guru was off directing that movie, and he was nowhere to be seen on set for this soap, and they just got very sloppy, and they were so tired of churning it out, so they just charged ahead and did the best they could.
And there was an episode I saw where the guy who's turned into his bad self, he has a cane with a sword in it, and he takes the sword out and tries to threaten this woman, and the actual blade drops out of the end of it and falls off. And he tries to catch it and drops it even more. And
I remember that. There's also one of the other super great bloopers. It might have been this storyline, but because every year some woman is tied up in a chair somewhere, stashed away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it might have been this storyline where he's kidnapped someone, and he's put a gag around her mouth and talking to her, and the gag falls off. And she just has to pretend it's still there.
All of the British listeners who know Victoria Wood and Acorn Antiques, they spoof all these sorts of things, and you think that Acorn Antiques is a ridiculous sort of spoof, but actually Dark Shadows comes very close to it, more so than any soap opera I've ever seen.
Oh my goodness!
He kidnaps Maggie Evans and takes her to he's made her a nice little room in some horrible dungeon, and but he has to go and get some of her. He sneaks in and gets some of her stuff from her own bedroom, and he's like, he's not just packing her case. He's considering the audience and the time it was on. It's a bit much. He's really kind of slavering over it. It's a bit disturbing.
Yes. Oh dear.
But I don't know if any of the others that can think of shows that they like where there's some really big bloopers that are just left in that they're particularly fond of.
Well, the one that jumped out at me was there's an early episode of Hancock's Half Hour. There's an airfield at the bottom of my garden, where the idea is that there's a table that's meant to collapse as the sort of end of a scene or something. So they've rigged up this table to fall over. Unfortunately, the table starts to collapse halfway through the episode. So Hancock has to hold on to the table, and other people have to then come in and hold the table up as well. And it's very obvious until the moment when the table actually has to collapse, and then they can just let it go. I quite like that in comedies, when you sort of let in onto the gag.
They start watching.
We've been watching Are You Being Served, haven't we, Lisa?
Yes.
And what was the one we watched the other night? Takeover?
Yes.
Where Mr. Lucas starts to laugh.
Yeah.
Because Mr. Granger's come in wearing this ridiculous wig.
Yeah.
And they're not supposed to know who they are they?
No.
And he has to introduce him at a party.
Mm-hmm.
And he just looks at him and just starts laughing.
Mm-hmm.
And then this woman comes in and... what's her name?
Lady Mabel Abel...
Weeble Abel Smith. Lady Weeble Abel Smith. And he can't say it, can he? Because he has to go, Lady Weeble Abel Smith. And he just starts grinning. Yeah. But what's the other one you like? The season 10 one where Michael Atwell's laughing?
That's The Hold Up. Because John Inman's dressed as this character called Mad Tony, and he's so completely over the top.
Sort of Italian gangster.
Italian gangster, and he's doing this thing with a fan. He's hitting Michael Atwell on the face with this fan.
And Michael Atwell's about 6'6", isn't he?
Yeah, he's pulled him down
really
to sort of his level. And he's doing this thing, hitting him on the face, and they're shooting it from the side. but you can just see Michael Atwell sort of starting to laugh and having to sort of try and suppress it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But that's from the days when you really couldn't cut if you if you wanted to cut, you had to justify it.
Yeah.
So they just tended to keep going, didn't they?
Well, that's the funny thing about, what we're talking about is these things don't happen today because it's so inexpensive to edit, and most things aren't done live on tape like they were. And you have to go back to these old shows that used to do live on tape to find them, and it's all part of their charm.
We used to do live on tape on Sutton Park. I think, including the metallic man with his fingers dropping off on camera, snapping off in the middle of a scene. But I kept on acting. Martin, can you think of any examples?
It's weird, really, because we had all those years, didn't we, of It's All Right on the Night, and I always think that the beauty of it is live telly. I think the only place you still get that now is sort of breakfast news and things, isn't it? When somebody decides to throw a strop, walk off, or something falls over, or a bulb explodes, or something. My favourite one of those, I think, is it the Pebble Mill, where is it Gene Pitney singing outside, and the track doesn't play, or he can't hear it, or something. I love that. The problem is it's also that you're kind of embarrassed for them, but equally sometimes it's a bit too cringeworthy. But there's a lot of stuff like you say in early live drama. My favourite in terms of I suspect it has nothing to do with the show itself, is that Avengers where the fly is walking around all over the recording device.
Nick, do you have any favourites?
Well, I suppose fresh in my mind at the moment, because we've just finished rewatching it, is the Doctor Who story Earthshock, with the last 2 episodes have probably the biggest number of blunders in it. I think it's because it was such a demanding show. It was frenetic the way it was put together. But there's the bit that Peter Davison found on first transmission where you can actually, although it's a low light, you can actually see the PA sat on the floor looking at the script, and also the amount of, they've got all these troopers, that are storming going through the spaceship, and when they reach the TARDIS, there's the continuity of the troopers actually goes bananas, because there's a woman that gets grabbed, but it's 2 men go in, but only one actually comes through the door, despite the fact that 2 have come through the door, and 2 disappear. And there's no, I suppose they must have been zapped or anything. And of course, Matthew Waterhouse, playing Adric, kind of reaching out for the console, knowing it's going to explode.
It's Tiny Tim. Adric, who did not die.
The Cyberman's mic comes down at his mouth when in his death throes, but then they would, I suppose, Cyberman's fallen to pieces. So that's quite fun.
Well, this is, of course, at the time of recording, we've just passed the 40th anniversary of poor old Adric getting exploded on the spaceship, which had deeply affected some of us more than others, depending on how young we were at the time. But yes, I was thinking what Nick was saying about members of the production team sitting in there. That often happened in Dark Shadows. Often when they were filming, I don't know, a bit of blank set or a bit of set to run the titles over, occasionally you get people walking into shot and not realising that was the bit of the set that they were using for this episode. Head titles.
The best one of those was Roger coming in with his trousers in hand, and he's got boxer shorts on, and he looks and realizes, oops, and scurries off the set.
Well, I suppose going back to Are You Being Served? This is theatre rather than telly, but so I'm stretching it a bit here. But I did see Ali and I went to see John Inman in a farce many years ago at the end of a pier. It was one of these sort of trousers down farces, as they tend to be. and somebody couldn't get the line, and John Inman went off the set and came back with the script and said, "We're there," which I just yeah.
I was thinking of, when we were talking about corpsing and stuff, I was thinking of, I'm sure there are scenes in like Morecambe and Wise where Eric Morecambe makes Ernie Wise smirk, or I think he was a giggler, but then there's also the stage stuff they do where, because usually Morecambe and Wise of a certain era ends with like a big production, but it's usually because Ernie wants to be with the love interest. And maybe he hasn't told. This is all obviously scripted, but he's kind of made it sound like the show's over, and then Eric Morecambe's walking out in the back of the stage with his carrier bag and kind of stops and looks and sees that things are still going on. But that actually happens in Dark Shadows in real life. But
Nick's reminded me of talking about Earthshock. Toppy might not know the scene, but if I were to say the hand holding Sutek's cushion in Pyramids of Mars, so to explain to Toppy, one of the sort of I think it's generally acknowledged as one of the best sort of Doctor Who stories is all about Egyptology, and there's this Egyptian god who's been trapped in a pyramid for thousands of years with the power to destroy the world, and eventually he's freed from his force field. He stands up, and a sheepish hand is holding on to the cushion so it doesn't stick to his arse when he stands up, and you can see the hand sort of go behind the chair. And didn't they remove it from the DVD release? Controversially, yes.
Well, you've got the option.
Yeah, you've got the option to see it with or without the hand.
Okay.
Yes.
I wonder if there's an option on Earthshock to see it with or without the PA. But also, that reminds me of the City of Death. There's another Doctor Who story. There's a scene set in Renaissance Italy, and there is just one shot where you can not only see the boom mic, but you actually see the whole arm of the boom mic in shot.
Oh yeah.
But it's quite subtly done. I mean, I had to have it pointed out to me.
I'd never noticed that either. No, I hadn't.
The reverse of that is, I still haven't forgiven them, but it was on an episode of Points of View after the Awakening had been shown in the mid-ish 80s, and somebody had written in and said, "Oh, you can see a red." In their mind, they thought it was set in like the sort of Cavalier era, and they said you can see a red phone box in the background, but what I don't think either the Points of View had taken in or the letter writer had taken in is that it wasn't set in the past. It was like one of those war reenactment things which actually started to be infected by the past. But it was perfectly fine for there to be a red telephone box in the scene. I was furious. I'm still furious.
I used to say at school, get your facts right.
Yeah, get your facts right. Time for us to move on to the first of our three Call My Bluffs. Now, for those of you who haven't heard this before, and for Nick, who's not been a part of this before, I shall read three different anecdotes, but only one of them is right. They all involve members of the Shy Life podcast team. But anyway, here we go. For the first one, Bettina Dupre was uncredited as one of Madonna's stunt doubles in Desperately Seeking Susan. The second one is Cromarty once worked as a pantomime horse in a production of Cinderella and was mobbed by a family of actual horses after the show who mistook him for the real deal. And the third one is Charlie Gurr once won an award for his good work at promoting the cause of pies to a worldwide audience. The award was an actual pie, which he immediately ate up on the stage in front of the shocked audience. So Bettina Dupre was a stunt double for Madonna. Cromarty once worked as a pantomime horse and was mobbed by a family of horses. Or Charlie Gurr won a pie award and then ate it on stage. Which is the true anecdote? Toppy, what do you think?
I think it's Charlie Gurr and the pie.
Okay, Andrew?
Well, Madonna's been through so many different incarnations.
Oh, what are you going to say?
But I think anyone could have been a stunt double at some point, so I'll go for that one.
And Lisa?
I'm going to go for Charlie Gurr, I think, because I can see him doing that. So.
And Martin?
Well, I worry about the pie because I feel it might be gold plated. I don't know whether that would be an issue. So I'm going to go for the Panto horse.
Okay, and Nick?
Well, I'm not quite so familiar with Charlie as the others, but I've seen enough of his work, shall we say, to say that certainly sounds in character. I don't go for Desperately Seeking Susan one because I've seen that, and Madonna is entirely Madonna throughout. So I went to see it at the cinema back in the day. So I'm going to go for Charlie too.
Okay, well, the true anecdote is indeed Charlie Gurr. This is the true anecdote. It was a cherry and beef pie, half and half. So half of it was cherry, half of it was beef. But Charlie barely noticed as he ate it in under 5 seconds.
Wow.
Like a Cornish pasty.
It was. I think it was along those lines. Now, information on the other two. Bettina was not stunt double on this film, but she was at the premiere of Who's That Girl and prevented Madonna tripping over her own ego at one stage in the evening.
Easily done.
Yeah, and as for Cromitty, the true version of that story is that Cromitty played Mother Goose in the pantomime of the same name. It was a family of geese who mobbed him. So not quite.
Geese are pecky buggers.
Yeah,
aren't they? I got severely mauled by a goose on the Isle of Wight, didn't I? I was well and truly goosed.
Geese can be very pecky, and herons.
Cromitty? Mr. Andrew, yes, I still have the scars from the gooses. They were very pecky indeed.
I sympathise.
You think you've got problems, Cromitty? Last panto I did, I worked with a pantomime horse and it farted, and I don't know which one farted. That's not that.
Oh dear. Oh well, I'll swap my geese for your farting horse, but I'm not sure which is worse. Well, thank you, Cromitty. We might be hearing from Cromitty later. He's going to offer his expertise as an agony.
His body.
So I'm going to ask, rather than do like 6 clips, that's too much. I'm going to ask you to choose different bits, and then we'll see if we can find an episode that links in. So, Martin, will you pick a month, please?
A month. Oh, what's a good month? What's the best month? What is the best month? I'm just going to list them in order of preference. Let me think. Which is the best to work? It's October.
Okay, Nick will agree with you.
Me too.
Can we, Lisa? Can I have a year between 2016 and 2022?
2018.
Okay. And Nick, can I have what like early in the month, middle of the month, late in the month?
Do you want an actual date, or?
You can give me an actual date.
28th.
Okay. So 2018 October. Right. Well, we don't have. We don't actually have an episode for the 28th, but we have for the 29th, and it involves Nick. It is when Nick and I discussed the big hits of 1989. It was actually released around the time of a significant birthday for you, so we'll play a little clip from that. And actually, we might play a clip from the episode that came before it too. The episode before, so that was episode 203. But episode 202 was called "Rebellious Spooks and Robot Seances." It was our Halloween episode for 2018. So we may play a clip from that and a clip from the 1989 episode. First up, I think I'm going to see if I can find that ghost that did the Toppie impression last year. Do you remember? I'm not sure where he is. Perhaps he's having a nap.
Oh, hey, I really love your library. It's wonderful books. There's a lot of keep a nice library.
Oh, well, it's not actually. It's not my library, but what do you mean? The library that I work in? This. I was going to. There is a library in this building. Actually, maybe that's what you've seen. If you want to come back to London later, I mean, when we leave, then I'd love to show you my actual library. I think you.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Oh, great.
It's a lovely. I would love to work in a place like that. It'd be nice.
It is lovely working in the library. So, is there anything else you'd like to do? Like, are there any other people you need to catch up with, or we are recording, but it won't take that much time. My time is your time.
Yeah. What are you recording?
A podcast episode for, it's for the Halloween episode. It's a bit early, but we're.
What's a podcast? What are you talking about?
It's like a radio show.
Oh.
But it's on.
Right.
It's recorded. It's recorded.
Well, I haven't left here in ages. I'd love to go for just a stroll. Maybe just to try it anyways.
Yeah, we can do that. You okay about going outside or?
I have not been outside for a long time. It'd be nice to try. I don't know.
Well, yeah. Well, we can see how it goes, can't we? We can see how it goes, and if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out.
Yeah. That spot I have under your stairs. It's very nice.
You've been down. Nice. You've been under the stairs.
It's very nice. I like being there. Anyways,
well,
little cramped, but it's all right.
Did you want to go? Did you want to go back there before we go out, or did you?
I do like it there. Maybe I won't go outside. Maybe I'll just go back under the stairs. Do you mind?
No, it's fine. And do you want to take the biscuit with you?
Please, thank you. Thank you, Uncle John.
Okay. It's nice seeing you. Catch up with you. Do pop up again later if. Bye, Toppy.
Bye. I'll just take another. Thank you.
Okay. Sure.
What is going on, Paul? I don't know. Although I'm beginning to wonder if this isn't some sort of trick, some sort of prank. What do you mean? I don't think that was Toppy at all. I just don't think that was him. I just think that the ghost is playing with us, maybe taking an image from my brain or something. I was talking about Toppy on the show. Maybe you think this ghost is a listener of the podcast? Well, he might be. It might be. Or it might just be, I got my computer here. It might be that it's heard me editing or something. I don't know. I don't think it's the real Toppy. I'm going to give him a call. Oh, I think you should. And we're gonna have to face him, eh? This ghost. Do you think he knows the other ghost? What, the one that I exorcised? I don't know. It's all very odd.
Any thoughts of your own life in '89?
89.
What were you up to?
Well, actually, I was just recently. I've been revisiting my diaries for 1989 because I'm in the midst of doing a book where I was writing a series between 88 and 94. So I had to, sort of look at the dates. 89 didn't actually give me much to go on in terms of the writing because I didn't really have much time for writing in it. I was in a church young communicants group, which I ended up running from about May onwards. I was clubbing. I restarted with the Amdrams that year. You and I were at a writers group with a lady called Alex Leslie, who was a great big Bronte fan. That's Emily Bronte, not Brontosaurus. And she started a lovely writing group which had a great potential, and then she promptly married someone and went off into the sunset. So, but no, a very busy year. I didn't realise how busy. And I started videoing. I bought my own video recorder rather after the rest of the human race, but never mind. And we also I started hiring out video cameras and filming in '89, so it was the beginnings of something big. But yeah, I got to know Andrew Trowbridge, who of course you all know from the around the archives, and he, although we knew each other from about 4 years earlier. 3 years earlier from the Doctor Who local group, we started regularly meeting up. So it was the beginning of the beginning, really. It was quite a positive year. Apart from the fact I would have liked to have had a lady on my own, but we can't have everything. But no, it was a fairly positive year. It was fairly good. Yeah. Oh, the maltings burnt down. Which wasn't so good.
I was saying to you when we were talking about doing this year that it was sort of, I don't remember a great deal of about '89, only because it was sort of a middle of nowhere year for me. It wasn't. I was probably studying for my GCSEs, but it wasn't the year I did my GCSEs. It was just, and writing wise, I don't know that I completed anything that I still refer to. So it may have been around then that I did the Nigel Walmsley stuff started with.
Of course, you and I both did tape zines in 1989, because you did one, a one-off one, and I kind of did one on the back of it, which became RPS, Ray Face Shift. So yeah, it really was the beginnings of quite. It set up the 90s, really. I think a lot of things I did in '89 set up what my life was going to be like in the 90s.
And as we said in 1988 when we were doing that episode, I was now I was finally living in the year that I was in, and actually buying music of that year. So we will find there will definitely be stuff I will say, oh yes, I was buying. I was still buying old music and still exploring the past, but I was buying things currently in the charts too.
I went a bit mad in '88 and bought loads of contemporary stuff, but I don't think I did it so much in '89. I'm not quite so familiar with '89 as I am with '88. I don't know why that should be, because I was still in the record department. Working with the record department, I was still fairly savvy on the charts.
Okay, so let's do another flashback. Andrew, can I have a year between 2016 and 2022, please?
2020.
2020?
2020.
Yeah.
Yes. That wasn't an echo. That was me saying 20 twice.
Toppy, can I have a month, please?
All right. August.
And Lisa, again, can we have a date in a month?
All right. Okay, let's say the 11th.
Okay. 11th of August 2020. Again, it falls in between, so we might play two clips. One of them involves Nick again. We've got episode 364, which came out on August the 9th, 2020. It was our third book club. And then on August the 12th, we had episode 365, which involves two of Toppy's former Lotzel co-hosts. It's Shy Yeti's Telly Treasures with Jay and Wes. And so I shall put a clip from both of those on. Anyway, sorry I cheated there.
No, not at all.
I just have these. I just had those two books, and I can't choose between them because I haven't read them yet. But they both look good.
I wouldn't mind getting one myself.
Yeah. Because I mean, there's loads of people. As I say, with people like I bought a biography of Liz Taylor and a biography of Richard Burton, and partly because I realise I don't know that many of their films or that much about them. And Richard Burton was born the same day same date. No, day. No, we were both born November 10th. We weren't born the same year.
I was going to say.
So he's always been a name. He's always been a name that, but I don't know much about him. And so, but rather than buy one book, I bought two books on him in the hope that you get slightly different versions.
We've got his diaries.
Yes,
so we've got his diaries. So that's going to. But no, I've got a soft spot for biographies. Ali's a bit snobby about biographies. She thinks it needs to be an autobiography. But if the person's dead, you're a little bit limited about what they can write about.
And also, sometimes they end too soon. You don't get to hear the last few years. It's quite nice. It's quite like to have a biography that covers the whole career and also sort of takes it right to the end and maybe beyond if there's a reaction.
Exactly. I mean, it's not the complete story, really, is it? And also, you get ones where it completely goes up its own arse. Like, I have to say, the most disappointing autobiography I've ever read is Stephen Berkoff. You're just left with this sort of man who won't give anything away, won't say who anybody is, and calls himself the actor. I thought, this is pretentious rubbish. I've never been so bored in my life. I wasn't impressed with Berkoff's. So sometimes it does actually pay for somebody else to write it a little bit more objectively. I think if Douglas Adams had written a book about himself, it would have been so zany, he wouldn't have actually got to the nub of what the man was about. Whereas I've got a super book, I haven't actually included it yet, but maybe a future book club called Hitchhiker, which was written by a friend of his, and it's very funny, very objective, and sums him up really well. So
I've got one more trivia, one for you. I'm not sure whether you're both. I expect one of you to know the answer. What colour is superhero's Batman's bat phone?
Bat phone?
The bat phone. What colour is the bat phone?
That must be from like Super Friends or something, because it's not from like serious bat stuff.
No, no, it might be from the 60s TV.
I feel like I should know. Oh yeah. Oh! I see. Maybe you mean the one that rings in the when the commissioner's calling. Yeah. Well, yeah. Then I would guess I know what it is. Do you know what it is, Wes?
I think the color is red. At least that's the one that's on the desk of the commissioner's office, right?
Yeah, that's the answer we have here. So okay. I think I would have when I first saw that I thought, oh, I'm not sure, and then I thought, oh no, of course, because it glows. It glows that red color.
Yeah. But, when you first said bat phone, I'm thinking like something he carries on him, like a cell phone. So I was like, I didn't even make the connection to like the old show at first, the bringing up the
that's still when you say, but even though we've had all those even the late 80s, early 90s movies, I still think when I hear Batman, I still think of the 60s show because it was on TV so much, and I was scared of the title sequence of all those people running through and all the villains coming at you. I sometimes I don't think I even got as far as the show. But
I forgot about that. Was that like the animated beginning where they're like kind of floating through the
green sort of background?
Yeah, it's kind of creepy looking.
Yeah. I don't think sometimes I got any further than that. That was quite scary enough.
That was that was certainly my first introduction to Batman, because of course it was already in. Well, the movie was 1966, which is the year I was born. So clearly I didn't see that when it first aired. But that was like probably in first run syndication by the time I was watching TV.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first introduction.
I remember during the first movie in the 80s, who was the actor that played him? Michael Keaton, the first Michael Keaton movie. So I didn't really know much about Batman. I guess I probably saw some of the old TV series, but then when that movie came out, all the local channels capitalized on that by playing those episodes over and over again.
And the merchandising and stuff for that first Keaton movie was crazy. Like,
yes,
it was everywhere.
Yeah.
I remember my cousin sort of dragging me to the cinema a few more times than I probably would have gone to see it. But. Okay, we'll do one last flashback. Nick, can you choose a year between 2016 and 2022?
Well, let's go back to its very beginnings. Let's do 2016.
Okay, if 2016, then we'll need a month between May and December. So, Andrew, can you choose a month between May and December, please?
November, please.
That'll be Anton month.
November.
Yes, please.
November. And Martin, can you choose?
November. Let me think. I can't think of any significant days in November. Nothing has ever happened in November that I can think of. So,
Is he turned into a seal? What's going on?
Mindy. No, 13th.
13th. Okay. So there was actually a big gap between November the 3rd and November the 15th. So I think, it's so November the 15th, which is 2016, which is the nearest. That was episode 33. And it's ironic, really. He's haunting us. It's, I think, Jay the Haunt Cub's first appearance on the show. It's Hey, it's Haunt Cub. And yes, so former Lotzel cast members are here. So yes, we'll play a clip.
All here. There we go.
We'll play a clip.
You have literally everybody on your show this week. That's the thing. We should phone. We should phone Warren just to make sure. You know.
Oh well, Warren and I have been recording, but the first time I ever went on a dance floor was probably at a Doctor Who convention. Because I went to an all-boys school anyway, so there weren't any school discos, but we didn't really have things like proms or things like that, so I didn't really. So I was a bit nervous about. Sorry, say again.
You didn't miss that much.
Well, I kind of got more into having a shimmy when I was the conventions, and partly when I met Callum, we used to go out into this horrible club in. Where we lived, and I grew to quite like having a dance about, but when I was the age that I remember going to a Doctor Who convention, and Nick, I think Nick and his friends, being that bit older, that was one of the first things they did when they wanted to meet girls was to go to discos or nightclubs, and it was all kind of new to me, and I remember Nick sort of saying, "Oh, are you going to come to the disco?" And I was like, I suppose might have only been 16 or 17 or something, and maybe probably no much more than that. And I was like, "Oh no, I'm not doing that. No, or I'd sit on the side and not dance," which is which is what Harry is very much like. When I used to go night clubbing with him, he'd just stand on the side. But by which point I was spinning around, but. There met lots of different guests at conventions, and sometimes it was the most obscure ones that were the most surprising or the most fun. Who some people will go to them and they'll just take the money and then they'll vanish, and some of the guests would actually come down to the bar in the evening or stay for the disco and just enjoy the adulation a bit. But they were usually they might have been the guest stars, but they were. They probably, in a way, were just as famous, but just not for their roles on Doctor Who. But we should probably leave Doctor Who for now, because we've still got 4 more numbers to go. And
okay.
I turn into a pumpkin in the next 20 minutes. No, I don't. I'm already a pumpkin.
Hello, it's me, Yeti Uncle John. Just calling in to... So I'm really enjoying your latest episode with Hay the John Cub, no, Ray the Blonde Cub, that man down the pub, Jay your episode with Jay is really good. I'm interested in hearing your questions. You should have been on, you should have been on the news, or one of them big time interviewers. You asked really probing questions. You'd have been very useful in the Inquisition, back in the Inquisition times. Yes, poking people with sticks and stuff. Yes, well, anyway, it's fascinating to hear, when you talk to somebody. It was, what? Oh, I'm a bit sleepy. All right then, it's your Yeti Uncle John. I'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Hello, it's me, Dammy Stringhorn. I just wanted to call in and say, I think that yes. Oh no. I just wanted to call in and say. Oh, it's me, Dammy Stringhorn. I just wanted to say hello to Jay the Horncub. I'm a big fan of yours. I've got all of your records and all of your books. And I have even climbed up a tree in your honour. Oh, no. This is me, Dammy Stringhorn. Good night.
So, right, so that's that. So let's see. I think I need to give you some facts about. I'm going to give you facts about. Actually, I was going to give you some facts. Oh, here we go. I've got going back to Dark Shadows. I should have read this when we were talking about it. But nine terrifyingly amusing facts about Dark Shadows. Although I won't read all 9 of them. But one of them being Barnabas Collins wasn't supposed to be a main character. He was just brought in to improve ratings. Also,
yes, they were going to kill him off and then move on to another story. But, well, like in a lot of soaps, when a villain is brought in, this has happened on many soaps. A villain is brought in, people really like him, and they say, "Oh, we got to keep him around." And sometimes, often the villain will become more sympathetic, and suddenly, next thing you know, they're a kind person. That's happened on so many soaps.
Yeah. And also, this is a fact that annoys me. There is one missing episode. It's like, why just one? It's so frustrating. It does, like with the missing Doctor Who episodes, it does exist in an audio format and is presented on the box set. But
it's like somebody left it in a taxi or something, isn't it? You know?
Well, it was so unusual for anybody to be preserving them anyways. Very unusual. For heaven's sakes, a lot of soaps just recorded over old episodes. And I've never understood what Dan Curtis thought he was doing that he preserved them. Did he think he was going to recycle them somehow? I mean, that just didn't happen back then for soaps. But
I think he went into parallel time where they had the videos earlier than they had in the normal time. So he was like, oh, right, keep them.
Yeah.
We might be living in parallel time now. We don't realise it. Only 2 actors stuck around for the whole series. One of them was Joan Bennett and one of them was Louis Edmonds.
Yes.
Nancy Barrett appeared in the 2nd episode. So she was also in the cast for the full run. But they would vanish for a while now and again, wouldn't they? You wouldn't see them. Or they'd be upstairs changing for about 3 months. Or
come down with the same head. That's
always. Yeah. There were a few. There were at least. I can think of 1 or 2 characters who were recast, but
yeah, that didn't happen too often. One of the things about Dark Shadows, it was taped in New York City, and one of the great reasons it was cast so well is that there were so many actors in New York City doing stage work, maybe some television or maybe some commercials, but they had a vast number of actors to choose from, and they always cast the show extremely well. But like Louis Edmonds, he was doing a lot of theater, and so he would work it out, write me off because from this date to that date I'm going to be on stage, and so he would just disappear for a while, and then he'd come back. Same with everybody. They just, I don't know if it was written into their contract or it was just something, we'll work around you. However those soaps did it, but they allowed the actors to go off and do other things.
On Sutton Park, it was a bit different. Sometimes if characters went missing, it's because I'd lost them, or I'd put them in the wrong box and misplaced them. But
I thought you meant they just gone to the pub.
That was that was.
Tell you something, it was dusty in that box, wasn't it, Lee?
Yeah. The show had a pretty slim budget. It had a 70,000 a week budget to produce 5 episodes. One camera operator discovered that putting plastic wrap and Vaseline around the edges of the lens made a great effect for dream sequences.
That was easier than wiping the Vaseline off it.
It said it's talking about mistakes. It says that, I don't remember this one, because Kate Jackson from Charlie's Angels was in Dark Shadows in the last year. And it says that in one instance, Kate Jackson's 19th century dress caught fire because she was surrounded by candles. The camera crew kept filming as if nothing happened. I don't know if that's noticeable on the. I'm less familiar with the very later episodes, but
I don't recall it, so it may have been off camera. I just don't remember seeing that. But it
was she went off to work for Charlie.
Yeah, she wasn't. She wasn't like a flaming torch by the end of it.
She should work for money, but.
Also, the painting of Barnabas Collins that's in a lot of episodes wasn't really, it wasn't painted with the knowledge of who the face. It was painted with a blank face, and then when Jonathan Frid got the role, his face was painted in, but it wasn't sort of, he didn't pose for it. A couple more facts, and then we'll move on to another lot of Call My Bluffs. It says that Dark Shadows has a lot of firsts. It stood out from other soap operas of the time. It was the first soap opera to be shot in colour on ABC. It was also the first soap opera to spawn 3 films, 2 of them coming out in the 70s and one of them in 2012. But we don't talk about too much.
Yeah. Actually, just briefly, I've come to kind of like that Johnny Depp version for, that you got to separate them, but I've come to
like it. I like it for the cameos of the old cast members, but I've only seen it once. I think.
It's an interesting point, though, Paul, that soap operas don't tend to spin off into films, whereas comedy shows do.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, many comedy shows that spin off into films, the films are pretty dreadful, but
yeah.
Interesting point. Yeah, I'm just trying to imagine Coronation Street, the movie.
The movie.
They did some spin-off straight-to-video ones, but that's not quite the same thing. Australia, Number 96, a show that wasn't really shown in the UK, that went to a movie, but that was kind of a soap that was after the watershed and was a little bit more risque and sort of fitted into being released as a film. But I mean, that's about the only film of a soap opera I can think of from Australian soap operas. But
even Dan Curtis's remake of his own soap, there are vast differences from the soap. The most obvious one being he couldn't shoot the movie on the soap set because it would pick up details and it would look fake. So he had to go to real locations. And secondly, he decided this time around, I'm going to have Barnabas be like I originally conceived him. He's going to come in. He's going to be a mean son of a gun, and then we're going to kill him off. And that's how the movie ends. Barnabas, dies at the end.
Yeah, it's more like a Hammer film.
Very much like a Hammer movie.
Okie dokie. Well, we've got another Call My Bluff. So I'm going to read you 3 anecdotes, and you've got to tell me which one is the real anecdote. So the first one is, Bettina and Aunt Tappy were part of Andy Warhol's factory during the late 1960s. They were the tea ladies. Back in 1983, Yeti Uncle John almost married his friend Sue, who was a chiropodist in Winchester. Yeti Uncle John misheard her proposal and said, "I do." Or the last one, Paul the Shy Yeti once almost swallowed a daffodil when visiting a local garden centre. He was so impressed by the scent of the flowers that he sniffed too hard, and one of the daffodils nearly shot up his left nostril. Which one is the true anecdote? Lisa.
Oh gosh, I'm going to say it's the first one, Bettina and Aunt Tappy.
Okie dokie. Martin?
No, I don't think that's that. I don't think it's that. I feel that Warhol and tea did not go together very well. Either that or they were just so bad at it that no one ever got any tea. Daffodil.
Okay. Nick?
I'm going to go for the daffodil too, because you were saying earlier that you were having trouble with pollen in recent years, so that would explain much. So I'm going to go for the daffy.
Toppy?
I'm going to go with the Warhol, because I just seem to remember that.
You have a family connection. Andrew, I hadn't asked you, had I?
No, but I've already got an image in my head of Wilfred Hyde White with a daffodil up his having his temperature took.
Oh, you think he breathed in too hard?
Yeah, and I think Wilfred Hyde White might have breathed through a different part of his body. So I can imagine Paul inhaling a daffodil through his mouth. And I'll be very clear on that. Through his what?
No.
Through his nose, even.
That explains him turning up on Buck Rogers, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you that none of you are right.
No!
The actual true story is that back in 1983, Yeti Uncle John almost married his friend Sue. This is true. Yeti Uncle John thought she had asked whether he'd like a second helping of chips. In retrospect, he is glad that he never married Sue, because she gave up chips soon after and moved to Swindon.
What did you say her job was?
Oh, what? Sorry?
What did you say Sue's job was?
The chiropodist. Yeah.
Oh, I misheard it as chiropractor. I imagined her manipulating him.
I was having trouble pronouncing chiropodist, but I don't get as far as pronouncing chiropractor either. But I can give you more details on the other two, though. The ladies weren't part of the factory, but they did hang out with Andy on many occasions. When they first met him, they were dressed as tea ladies at a fancy dress party, and Andy was dressed as a sausage. The other one about the daffodil, it wasn't a daffodil, but actually a large bunch of gladioli. The upside was that my nostrils smelt super floral for weeks after. It saved on hanging an air freshener on the end of my baseball cap. That's for sure, said Shy Yeti. Okay, we'll have one more.
Just one note about Andy Warhol, just in case you guys are interested. There's a really, really good documentary. I think it's like 4 episodes, so it's quite extensive, about his life. And if you're like me, I've never understood Andy Warhol. Never. I've never understood the phenomenon. I never understood what made the guy tick. And boy, if you're curious about what he was really like, this is a great documentary, and it culls the material from his own handwritten journal that he kept. And so it really gives you what was really going on in his mind, apart from what the world saw, which was obviously not really Andy Warhol. But anyways, it's fascinating if you want to.
I watched it this week, Toppy, and I think one of the things that it changed my impression of was he seemed to be really having a lot of fun, and well, except for when things were going wrong in his personal life, but he did seem to be having quite a lot of fun at times, and did seem to have, he was a lot more, I think when you saw clips from the 60s, he did seem quite monosyllabic, but when you saw him talking more in the 70s or into the 80s, he did seem more chatty and more fun, and even though a lot of really sad things were going on in his life. But
yeah.
Okie dokie. Right. We're going to do random words now. I'm going to each give you a word, and you can either say what you associate with that word. If you have an anecdote, you can share it. If you can share it, it depends what words come up with. Goodness, I'm worried now. Right. Now, where's my random word generator? Okay. Going to start with
Is that thing that people where they fill in the letters every day and tell me that they're green squares or something?
Wordle.
Is that what this is?
Well, yeah. I still play Wordle. I got it in 3 today.
I can never read the word because it always just gives me some squares to look at. It's kind of really annoying.
Yeah. Well, I played one because there's lots of different versions of Wordle coming out. There's one where you do 4 words at once, which is quite difficult. You get a few more goes than the normal.
For Wordle.
But there's also one called Hurdle, which is spelled Heard, where you listen to like 10 seconds of a song. Oh. And the first time I did it, it was a Fleetwood Mac song that I knew. So I was really impressed. I got it in 5 seconds. Of course, the next day it was a song I didn't know. And that's the trouble. If you don't know the song, you're not going to know it, even if you heard 3 minutes of it, if you just don't know the song. So it really depends on whether you know.
I thought hurdle would mean you just skip the middle letter or something. You have to jump over it.
You leap over it, yeah.
Paul, promise me that you'll never post your Wordle puzzle every day. Twitter or something.
I have done before now, but I've kind of stopped because I still do it. My mum and I do Wordle, but she doesn't want to use the website, so I have to be her. So she does it. She talks to me or sends me a text with her suggestions, and I have to reply back. A couple of times, due to human error, I've got it wrong and given her the wrong response, and said, "Oh no, it's not. It doesn't have any of those letters." And then I've looked back later and gone, "Oh, actually, yes, you did. You were right. They did have the letter A in it, and I oversaw that." So I said, "You should just do it on the website. Then there wouldn't be the human error of asking me when I'm in the middle of doing something." But there we go.
I still haven't found my word mastermind. I haven't turned the house upside down. I haven't found it yet. Never mind.
Okay, so the first word goes to Nick, and it's chocolate. What can you tell us about chocolate?
What can't I tell you about chocolate?
We do have a limit. You can't go on for 5 hours.
I can't go on 5 hours. I suppose it's all those kind of things, all those kind of nice chocolates that we used to have, and we haven't got any more, like secret bars, which were sort of hollow, like hollow tubes of chocolate with this sort of sort of hundreds and thousands, but only chocolate hundreds and thousands. So there were hundreds of thousands of the same thing, and with a creamy kind of centre. There was all pyramids and things like that. I have a feeling I've waffled on about that on another episode.
Well, I know that
I'm looking for something more original to say. Possibly Easter eggs, as we're coming up to Easter. I'm somebody who embraces both the religious and the secular side of Easter. So, I've spent 4 days in church and then guzzle to my heart's content on any kind of Easter egg I can. So.
I think Andrew will remember the time that Yeti Uncle John got stuck inside an Easter egg. But
I do. Yeah. He had to be freed, didn't he? He had to be eaten out.
Yes, we did. I think it was in one of our. It was in our first Open University or Around the Archives University episode that my specialist subject was chocolate bars, of all ones that had ceased to exist.
Oh, the other thing was Ali won a huge Easter egg about 8 years ago in the pub raffle, and she in this very room she did a photo shoot of all sorts of her different cuddly creatures coming out of it, as if they'd hatched. Each one had hatched. They still exist somewhere.
Callum's sister gave him a really giant jelly bear, which we took photos of, but we didn't know kind of how to sort of. We didn't know how to carve it up really, and also we were kind of thinking every second that it's in the house. It must be gathering dust, like just holding it, and I think we ended up throwing it away. But I got a photo opportunity. But okay, I've got another word. I'm going to give this one to Andrew. It's Seaside.
Oh, Seaside. When I was smaller than I am now, where we lived was a tiny, tiny hamlet. So a hamlet's even smaller than a village. We lived at the highest numbered house, which was number 4. And we used to have 2 buses that would come, apart from the school bus. We had a bus every week to Blandford and back, and a bus every August to Weymouth and back. So that was my trip to the seaside, Weymouth on the bus, along with the village. And, sorry, yeah?
I remember going to Weymouth on your 40th birthday, or at least round.
Oh, we did, yes.
Yeah, 'cause I came to stay and we went, and I definitely, yes, that's the last time I went to Weymouth, I think.
But I did once go there with a friend of mine who wasn't from the village. I think that might have been frowned upon, not taking people who weren't from the village. And we buried him in the sand. And and there's his head poking out, and there's about sort of 5 foot of sand underneath his head. We kept extending the sand till he was about 10 foot long, and stuck his shoes in at the end. And the number of people that would walk past and do a double take, thinking there was a 10-foot boy buried in the sand because they could see his shoes. Yes, that's what we used to do at the seaside.
That sounds perfectly acceptable to me.
Perfectly normal.
Yeah. Okay, I've got another word now. This one's from Martin.
Oh dear.
It's playwright.
Playwright. Let me see. Playwright. No, actually, I have very, very little I can say about playwrights, other than the fact that they write plays.
Well, you do Alan Bennett monologues, don't you? Alan Bennett's a playwright.
Yeah, but he must never find out.
But explain what your Alan Bennett monologues are. Then.
Also, some of your A to Zs involve programs that are written by people who are also known for writing.
Well, there is that. Yes, it's interesting really because I'm not quite completely convinced that the difference between a playwright and a screenwriter is that huge. But it's difficult to. People are about theatre. People, some reason that seem to find theatre hard, and yet they'll watch lots of telly. And I genuinely think there's no real difference. It's just telling a good story, isn't it? When all's said and done. But there's apparently one from centuries back, Billy something or other. Apparently he wrote plays. Billy. I can't think of his name.
Billy Bunter.
Billy Bunter, that's him. Yes, wrote about cigars and things. Yes, yeah.
Well, Nick's a playwright, isn't he?
I am.
There you go.
I have a few plays to my name. One of which I'm writing a screenplay for CCP, which is the Catherine Court Productions, which are sort of sitting on a number of me scripts at the Muse. Hoping to conjure them up in technology much more sophisticated than I was using back in the day. But yeah, I've done, and I suppose, you do, as Martin said, you do think theatre playwrights, like Mr. Bennett. So it's screenwriting, playwriting, anything to do with writing excites me. So,
okay, I've got a word now for Lisa. It's panda.
Panda. Okay. Oh gosh. Well, there's the panda, the cat, and the teddy bear, which is a wonderfully acerbic book by Paul Mars, who's written some Doctor Who novelizations.
You had to take a picture of that book, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Because when you get the book...
did you take a picture with a teddy bear and a cat?
That panda's so rude. That panda's so rude.
He is.
I was very sad that there was one cartoon that Paul did that I was involved in, which didn't appear in the finished book because I commented, and a few other people commented about how awful the panda was, and he did one of his strips. He did different animals using the comments from the Facebook comments, including I think I was an elephant, and first thing I did when I got my copy of the book was, I wonder if he included that one, but he didn't. So.
I mean, of course, Paul, you used to have a cat called Panda.
Yeah, I did. Yes, yeah.
Have you ever seen a panda in real life, Lisa?
No.
I can't recall ever seeing a panda.
No, because they only go to certain zoos, don't they? So it's a sort of London Zoo, and I think Edinburgh Zoo had one. And although we have been to London Zoo, not when the panda was there.
I've seen plenty of red pandas, and I think I've seen an actual panda, maybe in Vienna Zoo, and I think I cried a little bit. And this was about 5 years ago, because it was very nice seeing the panda in real life. But,
and there's also, of course, the Stephen Taylor's panda.
Oh, Hi-Fi.
Yes.
Yes.
Who's sat on a chair in the TARDIS at the time.
And you see a lot of panda cars, don't you, on Z cars?
You do see a lot of panda cars.
Yeah.
There is that. Yeah.
Weren't they all something to do with us trying to be friendly with China back in the day? Did we not get a lot of pandas?
That's right.
Yeah.
How did that go for everybody?
Okay, I've got a word for Toppy now, which I don't know whether, I suppose I ought to have a word as well, but we'll get one for Toppy first. Toppy, your word is winter.
Winter. The winter of my discontent. Winter. Oh, well, I was, when I wasn't inside drawing constantly, I occasionally would actually go outside and play, and so I have many, really wonderful memories of doing the things you do in the winter, sleigh riding and such. I'll just relay the memory that I really hold dear is my uncle got the entire family a toboggan, which is a really long wooden sled. And my grandmother, my father, my mother, and I, possibly my uncle, all climbed on it and went down Wetzel's Hill. And we really went fast. I mean, nobody knew we were going to go that fast. But what just makes me tear up with the memory is everyone laughed the whole way down, and hearing them, and I remember my grandmother laughing, and we would just laughed our heads off the entire way. It was ridiculous. So that's a happy memory.
I have to say, my nickname with my niece and nephew is Uncle Toboggan. Surely for the reason that when they were kids, they thought the name was an absolute scream. And suddenly I've become Uncle Toboggan. I've never been on a toboggan in my life, but it's just stuck. And then
I thought you were going to say that they rode you down hills in the winter.
Well, I'm going to have a word, but it's the word reminds me of somebody. It's charismatic. And I think the most charismatic person I know is sitting right next to me now.
Oh, my.
Nick. He's talking about me. It's the Uncle John, Nick. I mean, you're the second most charismatic person in this room. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Paul. It's very kind of you. I'll give you that £5 later. That's fine.
There's a plastic bag also sat next to you, so I'm, is that?
I am far more charismatic than that carrier bag. I promise you. Yes. Anyway, I'm sulking now. I'm going away again.
But it's Marks and Spencer's.
Yeah. Well, right. Time is getting on, so we need to do our final Call My Bluff. We've got 3 more, and let's see what we've got next. Okay. Before Tallulah Twinklehorn opened her music school, she was a struggling oboe player who made ends meet solving crime in small Surrey villages. She wasn't very good at this, but she did occasionally give an oboe recital to the disappointed families of some of the victims of the crimes. Or In 1977, Bettina Dupre briefly considered being a punk rocker and started her own band. Sadly, when she learnt that punks can't drink gin and tonic, she became a disco queen instead.
Why can't they drink gin and tonic? Okay.
Or finally, in the late 50s, when still a teenager, Paul's mum, Pat, saw the Everly Brothers in concert, but had to leave early when her cousin Jan fainted from the excitement. So, Tallulah Trinklehorn as a oboe-playing detective, Bettina Dupre as a punk rocker, or my mum going to see the Everly Brothers and having to rescue her cousin Jan from fainting.
Wow.
What do you think? Martin?
Oh, damn. Oboe.
Okay. Andrew?
It's unusual to have a family story in these, so I'm going to assume it's your mum.
Toppy?
That's what I'm going with. The story about your mum, and even if it's not true, I want it to be very much.
Nick?
Well, knowing your mum, she always comes to everybody's rescue. So I would say that, but I do have to say I love the image of a struggling oboe. This kind of oboe really tickling,
they can be quite
trying to run away.
They can be quite vicious.
But yeah, I'd say mum.
Okay, Lisa.
I'm going to go with the oboe player just because it sounds like a sort of rejected Midsummer Murders plot. So.
Okay, well, I can reveal that I think at least two of you got this right. It was the Tallulah Trinklehorn story.
Oh.
This is true. She also consoled a group of grieving seagulls who had their nest stolen by a pair of drunken Morris dancers during a folk festival in Broadstairs.
Oh, Morris dancers like to drink.
They do.
Yeah, I know that much.
Yeah.
I hope you're going to tell your mum about the bluff, and sort of
I actually did, but it is based slightly on truth. Well, only bits of it. Mrs. Chandler never saw the Everly Brothers in the late 1950s, but did see Cliff Richard in concert when he was first famous, and she herself was still a teenager. Jan is her cousin, though, but she didn't faint. In fact, she may not even have been there. Yes, I wasn't sure about that.
Listener, she married him.
Yeah. And as for Bettina did actually become a punk, but only for 3 months and 8 days. Her band was called Bettina and the Luddites.
Oh.
And they released just one single entitled Spittle, which failed to chart before Bettina gave up and headed back to the theatre. At no point did she refrain from her beloved gin and tonic.
I think I may have that somewhere.
Yeah. It's quite, quite...
Yeah. Quite the single.
Yes.
So it's not green vinyl, I believe. It's really quite.
I've got a couple more little things before we go. We've probably got time for a quiz. We may ask the quiz to ask Andrew a couple of questions about science and see.
Blimey.
But we'll only do 3 questions. But we'll come back to that in a minute because Cromitty has been waiting all episode. He wants. Well, he's offering himself up as an agony aunt. He wants to know: have you got any questions? Do you want any advice? Does anyone want any advice? Please, I'm here. Ask my advice. I will give you my detailed responses. Please, one of you, at least. We never have much luck with agony aunts on the show. Tina was actually brought onto the show as an agony aunt, and we nearly lost contact with her because nobody ever asked her anything. But you can ask me anything you like. Anything.
You
the
may
best
have
jelly.
to edit this long pause out while we think. I gotta think of something.
Any agony I have, you take a painkiller. So.
But you can ask me anything, Nick. You can ask me my opinion.
You kinky stones.
No, I don't care. And I won't ask you. I won't answer those questions. This is a family show. Well, maybe, but well. I'll just get some quiz questions ready whilst you think. I can get rid of the random word generator.
The pressure.
I can get rid of... We're going to have...
Here's a question. How do you get rid of a random word generator?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because
thank you.
There's a little cross at the top of the screen,
and
you just press it and it vanishes. The only trouble is, Paul has about 70 different tabs up with lots of different things, and it's very difficult. And you end up.
He's a very cross man. I feel he should be asking advice, really.
Well, I always have to answer. Yeti Uncle John, he always asks my advice. I do not. I never ask you advice.
Oh.
Yes, you do. I've heard him.
So you've actually got. I mean, you've got form. I mean, you're not just you've done this before. I mean, you have expertise. You have like certificates.
Of course, I work in a laboratory.
Wow.
Yes. So.
Well, I don't know anybody who works in a laboratory. I mean,
I do know things. Well, let's do some quiz questions, and if I've got any questions when we come back, then all right, I'll sit down and wait here in the corner.
Is it a square corner? No,
right, let's find some science questions for Andrew.
It better be the right sort of science. I'm not doing biology. That doesn't count.
Geology isn't even a real science.
I'll do 5 questions, and I'm going to go for hard. I'm going to go for hard.
Oh, bloody hell. I better leave then.
Going for hard, Mr. Orne.
Okay. Question 1.
Hard science.
If anyone else knows the answer, you can always shout it out and help him. But what name is given to atoms with the same atomic number but different numbers of neutrons in their nuclei?
Isotopes.
Yes, you're right. Question 2. In the International Morse code, which number is represented by 2 dashes and 3 dots?
That's not science. That's Morse code. I don't know that. W.
3 dots.
SOS.
W. Everybody choose a letter.
Not a number.
Eh? Oh, number?
Yeah.
Oh, 7.
Yes. Well done. You knew it. You say you knew it.
What was the answer?
Name the USSR world-beating 1959-76 moon program craft.
Oh, God. What's the dates again?
59 to 76.
59 to 76. It's either Vostok or Lunik.
It says lunar here, but yeah.
Lunar. All right, okay.
Which chemical elephant is represented by Se?
Selenium.
Yes. And the final question: the Resende nuclear fuel factory is in which South American country?
That's geography.
America.
That's a geography question. What was it called?
The Resend, but with an E at the end.
Is in where? Which
South American country?
South American
in
country.
Brazil.
Chile.
It's in
Brazil. Chile. What are you talking about?
Chile in Brazil. Where the nuts come from?
It is in the mountains.
The answer. Oh dear! Come on now. Has anybody got any questions for Paul Cromarty? He's crying.
Yes, I have a question. Where did you get that hat?
Oh, thank you for asking. Do you like it? It's very nice. I got it from a flea market, but it belonged to a flea who did no longer want it. But it has polka dots on it, and I like to keep my sandwiches under it like all good bears. Yes.
Is that a one-size-fits-all thing, the flea hat?
Well, we've been going to a flea market quite a lot. You find funny things in flea markets. Yes, you hop around.
All right, I've got a question.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. What do you do in the morning when, for instance, me, I like routine.
Down here. You think about something boring. I think that's the answer.
Oh, dear. I'm blushing now.
So, if you like routine, you just like routine. You do the same thing every day. I always put my right sock on first, Yeti Uncle John, and But I've heard that to open the pathways of your brain and create new, new pathways. What do they call them? Neurons? Estiva. No, I don't know what they're called. But anyways, it's good for you to break it up and do something new, because it maintains the connections between the nerves and stuff. So I sometimes think I ought to put the left sock on first. What would you do?
I would do that, yes.
Oh, no, you have to.
I think variety is the spice of life. I think that if you do the same thing every day, it can get very repetitive. And, sometimes it doesn't hurt to maybe, even wear odd socks. Maybe put a red sock with a blue sock. And you don't have to do what you think you have to do.
It's very zen that you already know the answer, isn't it? That's
my God, that's why you're a genius, Yeti Uncle John. That's genius.
But no, it's Cromitty you're speaking to, but there we go.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. We sound very similar. But I don't have the same experience in these things as Cromitty. No. Thank you anyway. Thank you.
I blew that.
Can I jump in? I've actually found I've got a list of the lunar probes.
Oh yeah.
We were saying I knew I had a list somewhere.
Yeah.
Like you do, knocking around a list of probes. Yeah, Luna 1 was launched on the 2nd of January 1959. It was a flyby and it missed the moon completely. And was the first ever spacecraft to fall into orbit around the sun. Luna 2, 12th of September 1959, actually hit the moon, becoming the first human-made object to reach the surface of the moon. So that was 1959. We actually hit the moon with something. So there you go.
Something actually hit the moon while the astronauts were on the moon.
Really?
And they measured it.
Yes, they
with
did.
their instruments. Because they were there.
Was it something
man-made? Luna 15. Luna 15 launched on the 13th of July 69, completed 52 lunar orbits, began descent to take samples, but crash-landed on the 21st of July near the Sea of Crises, which was when the Apollo 11 astronauts were actually on the lunar surface. So if it had gone badly wrong, they could have actually been hit by a space probe whilst on the moon. Imagine the chances of that. Yes.
You're the only two people.
So there you are. Yeah, there's loads of lunar probes. So.
I can only think of the Sputnik. That's, I guess, was the first thing to orbit the Earth.
The Jupiter 2. Or was that Lost in Space?
Jupiter 2. Was there a Jupiter 1? If there was a Jupiter 2.
Possibly.
Was there a Jupiter 1 Lost in Space?
Now we're running out of time. We're running out of time, so I need to give you some facts about May as we're approaching May. Did you know that no US president has ever died in the month of May? In every other month of the year, at least one US president has died.
Well, there's one.
I mean,
that's kind of weird, isn't it? I mean, that's good. You shouldn't really tell people that because someone's going to take that, aren't they? And think, right, I'm going to do something about
that. The word May wasn't actually used until the Middle Ages. Were on their way out around the 15th century AD. Up until then, the Roman word Maius was still used.
Theresa Maius.
Yes. May used to have a very different name in Old English. Back then, the month was referred to as the month of three milkings.
Well, hey.
Surprisingly, this meant
you'd get a sore hand, wouldn't you?
Unsurprisingly, this meant that during this month you could milk your cows up to 3 times per day.
Ooh.
And people sold a lot of ointment.
It really is no answer to that, is there?
May isn't just a bad time to get married, though. Apparently, it's bad. I didn't read that one. Apparently, May was once considered an incredibly ill-omened time to get married. There is an adage for it, actually, which goes, marry in May and you'll rue the day. It's not clear where exactly the saying comes from.
I know one couple that's got married.
Nah, cast a clout till May is out.
May isn't just there's the Cornish superstition that buying a new broom in May is unlucky. Oh, and apparently you shouldn't wash any blankets either. But
or indeed in any of the other months. Oh, is that just me? Apparently, that's just me. There we go.
There's one. I have to look at these facts as being slightly doubtful though, because it says that May is the month that the Eurovision Song Contest is held every year. Well, that is true more recently, but I think Martin and I discovered that it was early March,
emission is
like back in the 60s and stuff. So anyway, we will do a few more bits of trivia after the end titles, but I just want to thank everyone for being here and give them the opportunity to talk about the shows they're involved in. So Andrew and Lisa, thank you for joining us, and how is Around the Archives going?
Oh, thank you. Well, number of things. We've just released our episode 61. I'm already confused. So thank you to you, Paul and Toppy, for helping with that one, because you talked about some unusual game shows.
Yeah.
And we're just starting to think about 62, which will feature Nick and Paul talking about.
I haven't told Nick.
Have you not told Nick yet?
I will tell him. It's okay. It's something we recorded a little while ago. But yes, we can't. I'll tell you after the show.
Yes, we won't announce what it is, but yeah, Nick will be there. So thank you to Nick for helping with that.
My pleasure. I'm just trying to struggle to think what it was.
It's all right. Paul can do it by a mime in a minute. It's all right. I'll write it down for him. And Martin has released 2 books.
Yes.
With us in, hasn't he? So over to Martin to explain the book.
Oh, the book. Well, the book. I mean, everybody's seen what's in them. That's why nobody wants them. No, it's.
You should have got 2 orders today.
Nobody wanted it. We did it anyway. So yes, the daily cartoon is now available in printed form. And jolly nice they are too.
Martin's managed to work the wonders of Lulu, but I think it's his PDF action. Ours is just.
I was going to say, could you give us some advice on that?
Well, I think we've
both got 2 books in abeyance at the moment.
I don't think Martin arranges his books in Word files. I think that's the problem. Whereas our story is in a Word file.
Not when I'm experimenting with that.
I think we can learn from you, Martin. Yes, with our friend Alan, who's published another novelisation of is having enormous trouble with Lulu. And I know Paul and I have got a book pending. It's been pending for about 3 years.
I think it's the format file, possibly. But
I think you should do a Shy Life University about using Lulu, shouldn't you?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, all I know, Paul, is that I'm haunted by the image that Martin drew of you lurking over behind the couch. That's haunted me to this day.
With my little baseball cap.
It's been immortalized forever.
I think, in a way, I'd like to be that cartoon all the time. But Martin, how's Vision on Sound?
Oh, ticking along. Ticking along. I've not actually done any interviewing for it for a while, which is starting to get me a bit twitchy. But I think we're going to do something about that this week.
Right.
But it's fine. What's tomorrow? Tomorrow's Warren. In fact, tomorrow's Warren. Yes, me and Warren recorded 2 on the same afternoon, which have been released a month apart, which is really interesting because one's part 2 of the same conversation. It's been out a month before part 1. It's a bit timey-wimey. But yes, no, we talked about the Blue Lamp film for his podcast, having talked about it in the context of the television series for my show. So it was kind of, for some reason, we were going to try and go for simultaneous release. And then I think Warren forgot which month it was, or I forgot which month it was, or other things got in the way, or suddenly we had to talk about Neighbours because that was more important than anything. So everything got shoved back a few weeks, and so that didn't quite work out. But but then again, it does give a sort of second bite of the cherry for Warren's show to get.
I've recorded 2 episodes in one day with you as well. I don't know if anyone's done 3 in one day, have they? Is 2 the record?
Not so far. No, I have recorded 3 in a day, but with 2 separate people. That's that's why sometimes you hear this sort of strange Dalek-y croaking when I get to it. Thank you for coming and talking to me.
Because if somebody does 3 in one day, I need to. I can't. I don't mind being equal.
Your brain just basically turns to mush by the end of it. I think that's that. I still find that. I don't know how people can keep sort of on mic and actually sort of you keep focused for that long. I mean, they must be much more cleverer than what I am.
And Toppy, how's the Smellcast, and how is Matinee Minutia?
Matinee Minutia, we just did a lovely film last night. We talked about A Patch of Blue, which I chose because of Sidney Poitier recently passing, and I think Patch of Blue is one of his movies, maybe the least talked about, but it was one of his most successful movies. He did right after Lilies of the Field that he won the Oscar for. And a year later, he did A Patch of Blue with Elizabeth Hartman in her film debut, and Shelley Winters as her horrid mother. Anyways, a lovely movie. Old black and white, 1968. If you haven't seen it, worth a watch. Oh, and the Smellcast. Oh, big times. We're finally having the great Boppity Hop race of 2022, and I'm working on that right now. You're just not going to believe what happens.
I may know more about that than I can possibly reveal.
Yeah.
And well, I can tell. I can answer for Nick as far as the. His next podcast appearance will be on the Shy Life podcast.
Well, I don't actually have a podcast on my own.
Well, you're on my one at least once a month, if not more. So we have a few in the can. So I'm not sure. I think we might be releasing in April the ones from behind the scenes on the films that you made.
Nick, can I say I loved your thing about bees the other day.
Oh, yeah, I've just been.
I smiled at that.
It just suddenly occurred to me that my mum had those allotments right on the edge of Southampton Road, and I thought that's not a very healthy place to put bees.
No.
In the mid-70s, traffic was a lot more tame than it is. It certainly is.
It certainly was earlier when my dad tried to drop me off here at your house because there was a traffic jam going all the way down the Southampton Road.
Yeah, it's a bit of a gridlock down here.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for joining me, and we'll be back in a month or so for maybe we'll be doing a summer one by then. But
lovely to speak to you all.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
It was good to have Nick. You were able to join us, Nick.
Yeah, well, that's all right. I just happen to be living here, so dead easy.
I know, so good. Anyway, well, we'll say goodbye for now, but we'll be back for just a little bit more trivia before we totally finish. But anyway, thank you for listening, and we'll be back again soon. All right, bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Oh, good.
Okay, I'm going to do just a little Mayday quiz that's just about 10 questions. So, May Day was a major national holiday in the Soviet Union during the Cold War. During the Cold War, Major Dwight Eisenhower tried to take back the holiday and called May the 1st by what name? Is it Americanization Day, War Day, United States Day, or Democracy Day?
Blimey, Charlie.
I like the sound of Democracy Day, just because the initials sound like sort of Double Diamond, which works wonders. That was a beer, wasn't it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyone, any thoughts?
Any ideas?
No, I never heard of this.
Should we go with Democracy Day then and see?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I get the answers at the end. Oh no, it says try again. Now, how rude.
Oh, well, not Democracy Day.
All right, then.
I forgot what the options were now.
Americanization Day. That's wrong as well. I don't like this.
That's a process that you do to videos, isn't it?
It's Law Day. I'm giving up on this quiz. I'm going to find
Law Day. Law Day, Law Day, Law Day.
Law Day.
Law Day, Law Day, Law Day, Law Day, Law Day.
I don't like that quiz. I'm going to do something else. What else is going?
Wait, before in May Day in my neck of the woods, and I think this was observed widely in maybe the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Not at all today. It's not a thing at all today. But even my father was young enough that he on May Day you would take flowers, a basket of flowers, and put them on someone's porch and leave them there as a surprise. That's what people used to do.
Oh, the giving of the May baskets. That's one of my trivia facts. Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to just get in a boat and try and sink it.
Apparently, in Italy, May Day is a really big celebration. Apparently, it was once banned. Persecution of May Day festivities began as early as the 1600s, and in 1640, the church ruled against the debauchery when the British Parliament banned the traditions as immoral. A much tamer version was brought back in 1644 under the rule of Charles II. Lisa may have known this.
Where they merely burned the Queen of the May.
What year did you say?
I was brought back in 1644.
So it was still Charles I in 1644.
Dear. All right, we're getting rid of this quiz. Inaccurate.
When's Charles II?
Charles II is 1660 to 1685.
This time it's personal.
I've now run out of facts because they were.
You've run out of facts.
Let's make some up. No. Yeah. So right. Well, that's good. That's that then.
Killed that.
What's
luckily that wasn't in the main show.
Yeti Uncle John, what do you think of when I say Mayday?
That quizzy
round the pub. Yeah, well, that's original. Cromitty. Oh, Cromitty. Does anyone have any more questions for Cromitty? No, Paul. I feel.
Yeah, I've got one. If you were writing a quiz for Mayday,
I feel that you have been let down by your facts, Paul. They have got things wrong for you. It was not your fault. I'll be your agony aunt, Paul. Don't worry, it's fine. I'll pat you on the knee. Comedy, that doesn't happen very often these days. Oh, Paul, stop it now. Anyway, so yeah, right. Well, I think we'll give up on the Mayday ideas, and thank you everybody for just for everything. And we'll be back again soon. All right. Bye-bye for now.
Lazy.
Bye.
How inaccurate. Dreadful. Dreadful behaviour.
I gotta go now. Bye. Gotta go. Bye.
Goodbye, 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 goodbye.
This show is part of the Pride 48 network. Find more shows over at pride48.com.
Oh dear. What's going on now? Oh, it's the Shy Life podcast. Let's go.
I have a voice. I have a voice. You have a voice. You have a voice. We have a voice. We have a voice.
Unique voices in podcasting.
UnibuzPods.net.
Hello, listeners. Cuthbert here. Before we say goodbye, we have two short pieces to share with you. The first is an alternative scene recorded for our Yoga Vampire episode last time, which we ended up not using, and the final clip is just some talk from before we started today's Chatterbox show. Enjoy. See you again soon! !
Wow.
Yeti Uncle John, these photos are marvelous. They certainly give us a good record of the people who had the yoga meeting. Oh, yeah, well, yes, that's what I thought. Quite pleased, I must say. Quite pleased.
I suppose we don't know if every single member was there, but the photo picks out which members are vampires and which are members of the public.
Yes, it does. It's rather sobering, isn't it? Gosh, this is obviously extra special camera film you're using, Yeti Uncle John. Yes, it's especially made to pick up vampires. Yes, and especially to pick out which are vampires amongst the crowd. Yes, because normally I know vampires don't have reflections. Yeah, but even then they can get fake ones. Can they? This is something I didn't know. All the rules. Yeah, all the rules broken, Paul. Yes. Golly. But yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have got these pictures using a normal camera, would you? No, Paul, it does need special equipment. Obviously, I've got the zoom, I've got the special film. Yeah. Well, I just hope that the photos we've got will help us and we can pass them on to a professional. Oh, yes, that would be marvellous. Yeti Uncle John, I think that would be for the best. Well, now we have them. We can do that, I suppose. Although, what happened at the park and what happened with the magpies, they'll probably go to ground again for a bit. We may not hear from them for a while, but at least we have something to pass on to anyone who takes over the case. Yes. Well, the magpies are proving quite useful. Yeah, I definitely gave them a stir when they were hanging around near the magpie hut a while ago, and then again in Richmond Park. I mean, that was a real good go. Oh, it makes me laugh to think of them running in fear. Oh, Yeti Uncle John. Yes, well, we have evidence now. We have achieved something. It feels positive. Yeti Uncle John, what can I do? But, I mean, the way you went about things, I don't know. I don't approve of that, but the outcome has been positive. Yes, I think so. Yes. Yes, well, now we just have to find a proper vampire hunter.
Yeah. I'm sure we can find one.
Yes, we can. Of course we can. And if we don't, then who knows? Maybe I'll be fully qualified by the time, I can help them out. Yeti Uncle John, I wish you wouldn't get involved. You've done enough. I think you've done quite enough. Yes, we don't want you getting hurt. Oh, I wouldn't get hurt. That's what you say. Oh, Yeti Uncle John. Yeti Uncle John. Oh, dear.
At least you don't get that strange lady saying, this podcast is being recorded, or whatever she says. That's always a bit alarming, I find.
Who's that? Cupid Stud?
Yes, she's terrible. Yes, it's all done in the worst possible taste. It's only when I'm recording. I don't think anybody else gets that message. I think it's just me.
I've got Paul is recording the call.
Paul is recording the call. Paul is recording the call. You should have a little banjo, shouldn't you?
If it was the 1950s, Martin, that probably would be number one. Considering what was number one in the early 1950s.
It will be. I'm just going to fire up the time engines.
But if I knew you were coming, I'd baked a cake. Number one hit of the week.
And I've recorded the call.
Maybe we'll start and we'll just add Toppy as he comes in.
Added Toppy.
He can be like like on Dynasty they have different people, and then they have if you get the then you're the most important. So that's why Joan Collins.
You are the most. Because Don Warren used to get the and on Death in Paradise, but now he's in the main credits. It's like they've because he's in it a little bit more. They've pushed him up the credits a little bit.
I think Toppy deserves the anyway. He's been podcasting longer than any of us. So.
I just
he's a vintage podcaster.
I just started watching Batman, the television Batman from the 60s.
Yeah,
and it's like that special guest villain. I always like that as a credit.
Yeah, we watched some. We watched.
The Bookworm.
We watched the Bookworm
so
one last
we've got
time.
box sets. Yeah.
Okay, what do I need to do?
Well, I remembered from the 70s.
I'll do an introduction, probably just as I do it, then top will pop up. Right, guys, I want you all to describe the Shylock podcast in a few words. You got a minute?
A minute?
Oh dear, just a minute. Get your Uncle John. I'll do a minute. All right, 90 seconds. All right, Shylock podcast is a show of quizzes and trivia and mischief. Good. Iggy Alien?
The Shylock podcast is a show full of special guests and journeys out into space.
Great. Cromitty. The Shylock podcast is a show that is not like any other show. It has archive footage from like 30 years ago of things that you, Paul, you were up to. Yes, good. Martin.
The Shylock podcast is a show full of adventure and mystery. There are vampires and space aliens and all sorts.
Good. Right. Okay, Bettina Dupre.
Oh, darling, the Shylock podcast is a show full of glamour and, stories and people talking about subjects that they find interesting. Lots of chat and conversation.
Perfect. August.
Oh, wait, the Shylock podcast is an artistic show. Yes, a show full of beautiful art.
Yes, all right.
Oh, and pies.
And pies, right, yes, okay. Right, well, I think that's about it. That's what we've got time for. Listeners, my name's Paul the Shy Yeti, and this is my show, the Shylock Podcast. And these are my co-hosts, plus lots of guests that I have. And yes, you really should listen. We're quite different from most podcasts. We're stranger, weirder, odder, and we do have space aliens and vampires. All right, please join us. Oh, did I miss the advert? Oh, what a pity. I'm Charlie Gurr. I'm a bear. I eat all the pies. The Shylock Podcast, the only podcast I know where they talk about pies.
526, 526, 526, 526,
Okay, continue.